G'day everyone, just want to make a quick video to demonstrate some Microsoft Excel macros that I've developed to help me with QA of cadastral survey datasets. So at the moment these macros are in the form of an Excel add-in. So every time I open Excel I have this cadastral tab that's permanently here. And when I click on it, it gives me access to these 4 macros that I use all the time. So I have an example data set here and it's a reasonably complex one. It has 16 primary parcels, about 90 easements. It has earthquake affected boundaries, and as you can see it has a lot of points, a lot of vectors and a lot of parcels. And also with this one it was quite challenging because we were waiting for lots of as-built plans at the same time that we were expected to produce title plans. So there has been a lot of updates to the data that's in Landonline since it was uploaded, which is never ideal, but a lot of the time it's unavoidable. So QAing this is not a small job, but it's been made much easier now. So the first macro I'll show you is to do with the marks. So we'll open up the marks panel and we can get this out as a CSV, opening that up. So we've got 309 points to check. So the first macro, all it does is puts all that data into a table and it uses 22 rules to establish if there's any possible errors. So it checks things like mark names against types. It checks that old marks are mark found. It checks that non-boundary and PRMs have descriptions. It checks that adopted marks don't have descriptions. It checks that boundary marks are either a peg or a disk or a post or an unmarked point. It checks that PRMs or non-boundaries are not pegs, disks, posts, or unmarked points. So yeah, it does a whole bunch of functions like that. And please don't form any negative opinions by how many errors you see. This dataset actually deposited some time ago, and I've thrown it back into 12D and put in a few errors for demonstration purposes. All this data is a table, so we can sort by columns, just bring all the errors to the top there, and we can also sort by all the other columns as well. And we can test a few things. So here, peg, if I change that to a tube, it'll flag that. An adopted mark, if I put a description in there, flush, it'll flag that as well. So that's all that one does. With the next 2 macros, what these do is they compare the mark data and the vector data that's in Landonline with the data that's in 12D. So for me, this has always been a really important check, essentially making sure that what's in 12D is the same as what's in Landonline. I really need that confidence that what I'm assessing in 12D is relevant to the data that's in Landonline, and vice versa if I'm doing Landonline checks as well. And I always like to submit my Travis spreadsheets and lot closure reports with my data sets, so I have that extra incentive to try and get all my mark names and all my vector data matching exactly. So in the past, I've normally done this manually by printing off the Travis spreadsheet and printing off the lot closure report and also the record of survey and just going through checking each line manually, which is quite a time-consuming and tedious task, especially for these larger data sets. And also, I hate to say it, but sometimes you can miss stuff. Anyway, going back to the macros. With this sheet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a second sheet in the same document, and I'm going to go to my 12D job, and I'm going to go to the right Landonline XML file panel, and I'm just going to read in my Travis spreadsheet data here. We'll go to the mark references, and we will just copy all this data, and we will paste it into there, and we'll just hit run. So it's run through both data sets and it's compared all mark names against their ID numbers. One thing that I've had to ensure in my workflows is that I'm using consistent point IDs between Landonline and 12D, which isn't a big deal. I've normally been pretty good at that. So it's matching all those points with IDs and it's detected these inconsistencies. So for example, this one here, see the plan references is different. For Mark 5, it's an iron tube in the name in the Landonline, and it's iron rod in 12D. Masonry anchor 53 versus a disc 53, so that's something to look at. What else do we have? Peg 11 from that DP in Landonline, and in 12D it's Peg 10 with the Roman numeral, an inconsistent mark name there. These marks here have been found in the Landonline dataset, but not the 12D dataset, and that's been done on purpose, just for the purpose of demonstration. I've added this parcel here into Landonline, and it's not on 12D. So these points here, 308, 309, 310, are in Landonline, as you can see, and in my 12D data, they're not there. So the macro has correctly found them, and these marks here are in 12D, but they're not in Landonline. They are these points here, which look like construction benchmarks, and it's probably not intended that they're going to make their way into Landonline, which is probably fair enough. So at the click of a button, we've had this nice concise report here, which is quite helpful. With the vector data, we're going to do the exact same, and I'm particularly proud of this one. It's got about 600 lines of code. Been a bit of a job, to be honest, but it works well, and I'm very pleased with it. We can export our vectors as a CSV, like so, and we're just going to do the same. We're going to make it a second sheet in that document. We'll go back to our Landonline file here, observations, and we're just going to copy all of that data and paste it into there, and we're going to run that. As you can see, it's done a similar thing. It's just run a report that compares all the vectors across both platforms. These vectors here are in 12D, but they're not in Landonline. These are the vectors that have been affected by that parcel that I put in for the demonstration, and these are the vectors to those site benchmarks that I identified earlier. Vectors in Landonline that are not in 12D, again, these are the vectors that are affected by that parcel, and reverse matching vectors. So these are vectors that have been entered that are point IDs are flipped and the bearings 180 degrees around the wrong way. The important thing is that they actually match. They're exactly 180 degrees different and the lengths are the same. Vectors with differences. So it's found these vectors. This one here is a minute different. So it could be a bearing correction or a mistake. And it's also 2 centimeters different. This one here is 10 seconds different. This one, the bearing's the same, but the distance is out. This vector here has been reversed. Point IDs were the other way around, and it was just a little bit more than 180 degrees. So there's a minute discrepancy here. This column here, bearing effect, I was asked by another surveyor to add this column in just because they had a data set that had 400 lots in it, and when they made a very minor adjustment to one of the external boundaries, it recalculated some several hundred peg ties. They wanted to know if all these differences were worth going through and changing in Landonline, and so they just wanted a column that showed this delta bearing at this distance. So that's that value there, 4 mils. So they probably wouldn't have gone through and made the effort of changing this bearing. Scrolling down, so these are vectors that have different types. That'll be worth checking. And these ones here have different adoption sources between Landonline and 12D. So with a few clicks of a button, we've been able to get this summary, and this with the mark summary. I hope you agree that this is quite powerful. Just think how long it would have taken us to go through those data sets manually and compile all these inconsistencies. It would have taken some time. There's also no guarantee that they would have been found either. The brilliant thing about this is that all it takes is a couple of clicks. I can just keep running this all the time just to make sure that anytime I make updates that everything's consistent and accurate. This last macro that I'm going to show you is for checking memorandums and schedules. So I have this one here. It's not too bad, but it's reasonably lengthy, and I'm just going to do the same. I'm going to export this as a CSV, open that up. In this form, I've always found the data quite hard to QA, just the way it breaks it up and splits it across rows. So I've made this macro to reorganize the data. So it's the same data, it's just been reorganized in a different way. It breaks it up by each lot, which purpose they have, and every parcel that they have that right or purpose over. So as you can see, it's quite concisely broken all that up. Much easier to QA, in my opinion, making sure that each lot has the required rights and that they have the required parcels in that column. So as you can see, these macros with a few clicks have given us a really powerful insight into the quality and the completeness of our survey. I use them all the time. They save me a lot of time, and I've picked up a few things that I've missed otherwise, so I'm really pleased with it. And I think it would be great for junior staff as well to start using, just to help them with building confidence of building complete and accurate data sets, and also QAing their work obviously as well. If you have any interest in these macros, by all means get in touch. I'll put my contact details in the video description. And if you have any ideas for any other macros, then by all means get in touch as well. I'd love to hear from you. That's all I have time for in this video. I do have other macros for producing supporting documents, things like that, which are also really cool, massive time savers. So hopefully I'll get a chance to make a video of them as well. So stay tuned, and thanks if you made it the whole way through the video. Cheers. Have a nice day.